Hey everybody, this is Eric Rousseau with the Comedy Film Festival. I'm joined today by the filmmakers and some of the cast and crew, one stand-up as well, from our PEWS block. I know some of you might be like, what is this? Or we're going to church, what's happening? That is pilot, episodic, and web series. It's a little terminology that we kind of coined to highlight a very important aspect of the comedy film industry. So with that, I'm going to start to introduce you to some of the folks that we have the lovely pleasure to be joined by. We will start off with Taylor Fredricks from Basil King. Taylor, tell us a little bit about yourself and the project.
So I am Taylor Fredricks. I am the producer, co-writer, and actor in Basil King. It's a TV series. We have 7 episode season right now, but we have the pleasure of having the pilot episode in the Comedy Film Festival. Pretty much Basil King, the pilot episode revolves around a late night business meeting that results in the brutal murder of a pizzeria owner, forcing 3 overzealous Goombas to dispose of the body. They are forced to come to terms with the lack of expertise when one wrong move thrusts all 3 of them into a grave too deep to climb out. So we've been working on this for the past 2.5 years. And yeah, we've been marketing, branding, everything that you want. And we had the pleasure of having the pilot screenplay in last year's the Comedy Film Festival. And so yeah, excited to bring it to the big screen.
Absolutely. And we're excited to have it, and we're excited to kind of be able to see that growth out of the filmmakers that have been a part of the festival. We've got a few familiar names from last year that are returning in some form or another, so really happy to have Basil King as one of those. So kind of in a similar vein, Taylor, you're both one of the brains behind Basil King, but you also appear on screen. In a similar vein, we are joined by Katherine, Coleman, and Tyler Oakley from the Writers' Room. Tell us a little bit about the project. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
I'm Tyler J. Oakley. I'm a co-producer, co-writer, and actor in Writers' Room. Also a stand-up comedian, but I'm not the aforementioned stand-up comedian here. Writers' Room is a sketch comedy web series we put together, in which you see the writers in the writer's room having the real talks about what they're noticing about the world, what's aggravating them, what's exciting them, and thereby giving birth to the sketch that you see. Each episode runs about 20 minutes. There's about 4 sketches per episode, and lets you into the creative process of myself, Katherine, and our third co-writer, Roxy Pell.
We did 6 episodes for season 1. We have our first episode screening at the festival. And yeah, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. We're hopeful to do a season 2, and we're just really excited to come to Austin. I've never been, so.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. Really, really stoked about this. And I think that, we have the pleasure for Katherine and Tyler to both feature them as part of the PEWS and as part of the sketch block, some of their individual sketches that are not part of this episode that's screening are going to be in that sketch block. So really excited about that. Really excited to introduce your work to a new audience here in Austin. Kind of saying in a similar vein, the web series, I'm going to throw it over to Ronald Short to talk a little bit about Teagan and his bros.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Ronald. I'm a filmmaker here in Austin. Moved here from Indiana over 16 years ago now. And our show is called Teagan and His Bros. I'm the creator, so I wrote all the episodes and I directed them, and also the puppeteer. I play Teagan in the show, and the show is a 4-episode. This first season's 4 episodes, and it's about 2 stoners who adopt a cat who also is a stoner. He's a Muppet-esque puppet, and it's very much based off of my experiences with some new cats we got recently. I just wondered, what if they could talk? What if they could tell us what they were thinking? And it kind of came from that, birthed from that.
It's such a fun experience. I'm so thrilled for people to be able to see it up on the big screen. We'll talk a little bit about more about that concept a little bit, sharing these kind of stories on the big screen, which don't always get that opportunity. And I think kind of in a similar world, we've got a pilot presentation here from Adam Nadler and Phil Rivo called Totally Sick, Adam, and tell us a little bit about the project and your role with it.
So I'm the writer-director of Totally Sick. It's a half-hour comedy pilot, and I'm here with my producing partner, Phil Rivo. It was inspired but not based on illness I had a while back, which was a bad illness, cancer. And but everything I saw on TV and the movies didn't reflect what I had experienced, which was that, you know, these movies are kind of like two young, beautiful people fall in love, and somebody gets sick and it's very sad, and everybody's, you know, and then somebody dies and it's very sad and heartwarming. And I was like, you know, to me, what I experienced was everything was a mess. You know, it's just, you know, people start fighting, you know, people, the whole, it's a shit show. And so I thought I would take two people, go on an online date. They have a terrible, terrible date. They decide to sleep together anyway, and the sex is worse than the date. And then she throws him out. And so the next morning, he comes back for his cell phone, and he's got this lump on his neck, which is how I found out I was sick. And so these two end up making a deal. They really hate each other. But they make a deal to work together. She will help him through chemo in exchange for he finds her someone to get married to, and that's the deal they make beyond this first 7 minutes. So Phil, you want to take it from there? Phil is the brilliant executive producer and co-star.
I would say I'm the star, to be quite honest with you.
Oh yeah, I misspoke.
That's just my humble pie. And I am bald. This is not from chemo. This is from being male pattern baldness, or just cis baldness, or just baldness. I just want to read you something I got. This is real. This is all real. Yeah, that's real. Cancer makes your hair grow back. Being bald and obnoxious does not. Here, I'm unfortunately, I have to sell real estate to pay for these $30 entrance fees. We're here to see the condo. We're in the lobby. There's signs up everywhere. Starts at 2 Eastern Standard Time. I wrote, starts at 2. And then they wrote, we're here now. You want to sell it? Who the fuck? I mean, like, is this like from Trump? I'm sure Beto O'Rourke would say, oh, I'll be there at 2. I'm sorry that, you're there early, right? But people are just rude. So the film business used to be the rudest business. Now it's one of the nicest. Look at this group of 30 to
find the word.
For Adam and I. Adam and I made a film about 28 years ago, and we stayed friends. And
that's how I got cancer, making that movie.
Yeah, so it's good. I just want to say we were in the Big Apple Film Festival, and we brought 27 people to see it, and we got nothing. No bookings. No one bought us a drink. Nothing. So we're not flying out to Austin just to hear you say thank you. If you say, hey, you two are getting an award, doesn't matter what the award is, I'm hopping on a plane. I'm going to go see Austin and then hang out with some liberal people.
There you go. We'll make sure not to say thank you, but we do appreciate it.
No, thanks for including us.
So this is hearing a little bit about Totally Sick. It's interesting because Adam, it sounds like your journey is different, but somewhat similar, in a similar vein to what John went through in finding out some of his own. I don't know if illness is necessarily the right word. He'll talk to us about it for Thanks Diabetes, which is one of the stand-up entries to our festival. John, tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, thank you. I don't know how I'm going to follow Phil. That was that was quite an intro to a Phil. Yeah, I have diabetes. Definitely an illness in terms of making sure that I get my Social Security benefits. So. No, but I mean, not as serious as cancer, obviously, but definitely life-changing. in terms of just my lifestyle and everything I did to kind of get myself better. But yeah, Thanks Diabetes is kind of just my chronicling of finding out that I got it, how I dealt with it, and it also tackles being an Asian American, as well as being an adopted immigrant from the Philippines, which, you know, I think even now has its own kind of issues, which is fine. I know that we're going to kind of stay up of politics, but you know, I've always been a guy that's taken his making the best out of the worst situation. So if you guys ever see me get scooped up by ICE, I'll probably just make my next special in El Salvador. So I'll find a way. But yeah, that's kind of what my special encompass.
Well, we're so thrilled to have it and to be able to feature you. You know, with this, the decision to be able to not only include pilots, episodic web series, but also stand-ups in this block was something that was really key and important to us. Of course, stand-up comedy, one of the most relatable, kind of visible aspects of comedy that I think people you know, seek out, especially Austin, you know, which is such a comedy town, such a stand-up town. I am aware that we only have Phil for just a few minutes, so I'm gonna kick it back for because, you know, he's got to sell those condos. Okay, so I get it. So I'm gonna kick it back to Totally Sick for just a couple minutes, and just want to hear a little bit about, you know, kind of what went into this project, especially some of the challenges through the scope of Episodic. So Adam and Phil, if y'all would share with us a little bit about that process.
Phil, what would you say?
Teamwork and friendship. And you know, I worked many years ago, I worked for Trauma, if you guys know, the low budget. So one thing I learned from them is do exactly what they don't do, which is pay people. And I notice when you pay people, you know, they put a better effort in, and because you respect them. And even if you're not union, if you can pay close, if you can afford to pay close to union wage, especially in New York, you get good people. And I think that's hopefully it's reflected in the movie, in the short.
The thing that was interesting in this is that the casting was very tough. And we actually delayed the shoot because we had a whole big casting call. We saw all these people that were really talented, but they weren't funny. And I spoke to a casting agent, and she said, "Oh, you have to hire a comedian." And Phil was already going to play the lead, but we just did a big search, and that was amazing. That solved the problem. All of a sudden, lines that weren't funny became funny. She knew how to deliver them. She knew the cadence. She got the. I mean, she was great. And the two of them really had a rapport. So it was kind of eye opening. There is that kind of unspoken thing about comedy. Sometimes people they're very talented, but sometimes they're just not funny. And this Carrie Louise was terrific, and she and Phil were really worked well together.
You know, some people were turned off because it's two people like in their 50s. I'm actually in my 60s, like having sex, which is kind of normal. But, you know, if it's not Nicole Kidman, people don't want to talk about it. Or
that's really true. I have people
like they watch 1 minute, including my family, 1 minute of the trailer, and they go, "I want nothing. I don't want to watch this." It's like I don't want to see you. You know,
I have people that won't talk about it.
Yeah, they just get disgusted. I mean, I can understand unless you have a fetish for hairy Eastern European Jewish men. I could understand not wanting to see me naked, but she's very attractive, and it's just sex. It's like it's showing people eat a meal.
As I mentioned at the top, pilot episodic web series, this is a really important aspect to comedy. You know, and again, I think that's part of the reason, also hand in hand with stand-up. So I want to continue this conversation, continue through this scope. Taylor, I'd love to hear from you. You know, you talked about this has been a journey that y'all have been on for a couple of years now. Why was it important, to go this route as opposed to something just like a self-contained short or feature?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that we just had bigger plans for it. We did the last series that we did was Jimmy Arcurio, and it was pretty much a lot of the same team a part of that. But it was like, okay, it's like we did that during COVID. Like we want to do something different. We want to put more effort into it. We want to kind of have a little bit more strategy involved with it. I remember when my creative partner Ryan Castro, him and I were literally at Home Slice Pizza eating pizza, and we were looking at the toppings and realizing that basil was like a $3-4 topping. I'm like, why the hell is basil so freaking expensive? The basil business must be booming. And then that was literally what spawned 7 episodes now of Basil King. And I don't know, it just felt like it's like, okay, we could have went the short route, which I've done plenty of shorts, and it's like okay. I think there's so much we can do with Basil King. There's so many different things we can do. It's like, we're obviously filmmakers, but we also love film, and a lot of us, especially the pilot, we're ripping off Goodfellas. There's so many different things. It's satire, so we're ripping off so many of these films that we love, and it's like, man, there's so many things we can do with the villains. There's so many things we can do with the storylines and the characters, and it's like it just seems like it wouldn't do it justice to just keep it to a short. We could have done a feature, but then again, it's like we already have ideas for season 2, season 3, and so it's like there's so many things we can do with it. So it's like, why just keep it contained when that fucker wants to let loose? So that's where we're at with it.
That's really cool. And I mean, I think it's one of the things that really stands out there is like, if y'all kind of see it in this way where this like world is going to continue on for, what amounts to years, then I mean, that right there really stands out. I'm going to keep it in Austin and throw it over to Ronald. We're really, one of the coolest things about this is it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum from Basil King, because with Teagan and his bro, or I guess I should say with Basil King, we're lucky enough to screen the pilot. With Teagan and his bros, this is a very specific, very like old school YouTube kind of web series where each episode I think clocks in around like 5 to 7 minutes. And we actually have it as like the entire block of that first season, if I'm stating that correctly. So why was it important for you to kind of like go down that route as opposed to either package it all together as one big kind of pilot, or a short, a feature? Why this kind of this format?
Yeah, so this kind of it birthed out of another idea. I had a puppet show that was more family oriented that I was trying to raise money for. We were going out for some grants, and it was kind of on a pause. We just need a little more of a budget for that. So I took a character from that. I'm kind of taking the Jim Henson approach and seeing them as like actors in various things, as opposed to they're just in this project or in that project. These guys can be in anything, So I took one of these characters, the cat, and he's one of my favorites of the 3 we have in the other show. And I just decided to make a more adult-oriented show around him. Because, like I said, we had cats that we just got. We got 3 cats 2 years ago now, a little over 2 years ago. And I've had cats my whole life. But it's just remembering the things you have to go through and learn with every new pet, and just how funny they can be. And it really came out of those experiences. So I took that cat character from that other show and I made a new thing. And the reason I went for like a shorter kind of like snippets is because I just kind of wanted, like, I guess I kind of missed that era of web series, YouTube, like where we see a shorter thing. I wanted to like have like a burst of just funny. There's a lot of sad and a lot of hate out there right now. So I just wanted something that was just dumb and funny, and you can just turn your mind off for, if you watch the whole thing, it's like 22 minutes. But if you just watch one, it's like 5 to 7 minutes, like you said. So I just wanted to give a little burst of happiness, maybe light up a bowl and watch a couple. That's my goal.
Yeah, and it for sure comes through as well. Like it is so light. It is like a really easy to get sucked into. And that's the funny thing I think about these kind of this idea of like comedy shows, right? Like I just want something that's a little bit lighter, and I can sit down and watch like 2, 3, 4 episodes, and an hour or two have gone by. Whereas like people are always like, have you seen this drama? It's like I'm not like there, like the capacity, like the energy that I need to watch that right now or late at night is just, it's so heavy. So you kind of Teagan does it in a really like quick time frame. Like you said, you can watch them all, and definitely by the end I was like, I want more, come on, let's go. So it's exciting.
Great.
It's exciting to hear that there's more potentially on the way.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of in a different form. So Katherine and Tyler, for the writer's room, y'all are kind of doing a little bit of both, right? The writer's room itself packages all of these sketches together in a show, kind of in a way that I think a lot of people are used to for a sketch show. But at the same time, as we mentioned before, you also put out sketches, on their own by themselves. Why was it important to do that packaging all together? Like what of that really like was the importance? What was the key aspect of that?
You can put out one sketch at a time, but the reason we didn't go at it as a a feature film was we weren't really trying to tell a story. We were sort of trying to capture something. And it's kind of what Taylor alluded to, that moment where you notice that Basil is a huge upcharge on pizza, and you start talking to somebody about that, going, what the fuck is that about? When did Basil become the new eggs? Such as hot ticket item. So I wanted to capture that element of the comedians talking to each other and just bouncing off of each other and coming up with the idea that eventually became the sketch. And the other thing is, with sketch shows, one of the most difficult things people who produce sketch shows or come up with them will tell you is coming up with that format. Having the sketch and how you're going to tie the sketches together and find that through line. With Chappelle's show, what they did is he put stand-up in between the sketches, but through my background and experience with improv and sketch writing, dialogue worked better than monologue. So I wanted to present the sketches in a digestible format, but also bring that backstory to it, and showcase the writers too, because the writers do so much. And in our case, we had writers who could also be actors, so I wanted them and their process to get some recognition.
Yeah, I think like the thing that really got my attention when like Tyler was sort of talking through the idea to me for the first time was like he pitched it as sort of a very writer-centric, writers-forward show. And so like I consider myself like a writer first, and I also perform, and like I appear in some of the sketches, but it was exciting to me that like I could direct the sketches. I didn't feel like I had to put myself in it to get my face out there, because it was like, oh, I can make this about the writing, the thing that I'm the most passionate about, and make that the focus of the show. And that was really fun to me. Whereas you couldn't do that if it was just like a single sketch on YouTube.
I would also want to add that I was noticing with 30 Rock most particularly, and its popularity kind of showed that people did have an appetite to see how the sausage gets made and what the writers are up to. And that going on Netflix concurrently with Mad Men, which among other things was in a lot of ways a writer-centric show, it showed that people did have the appetite to see that side of the product.
For sure. And that's one of the cool things, is like seeing y'all all come together and kind of like talk through it, or kind of like, you alluded to Chappelle, like, I think Chappelle did it, Key and Peele kind of did a little bit of like this idea of like, here's the seed that you can tell where we're starting from. And then like, here's the actual product of like where we ran with this idea. So kind of turning the page a little bit, but in keeping sketches so critical and important to comedy, stand-up is as well. And obviously a few people here have also a background in stand-up. But John, you are again one of our stand-up specials featured here. And a little bit of a different question. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of this special. Obviously you talked about like how personal it is. you know, how much it's influenced by your own experiences over the last few years. But, you know, every stand-up kind of goes about forming that special in a different way. You know, were you kind of doing little bits here and there? Were you doing like small, like little clubs to like work out the material? How did you kind of tie everything together? Because there is a narrative all throughout. It's not just joke, 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 joke.
It's interesting because, you know, I know there are other stand-ups here. I always found that there was like, I always like was subconscious in a sense where I wanted to balance, you know, ego with like what I want to do with my career. You know, every time I've approached a special, I've always kind of been like, well, who is this for? Why would anyone give a damn? And so I think, you know, I think with that, and also a little bit of, I'll be honest, a little bit of pettiness. I was producing a show and was approached by a media company. I won't name them, but they offered to, they pitched me the idea of recording my show and cutting it into a special. And so I kind of put a lot of trust in that. And once they pretty much, sorry for my language, bumblefucked the entire process and then locked me out of everything and then basically said I couldn't get access to any of my own footage. And then they went belly up, you know. I think that was a big turning moment of being like, well, you know, if there's a media company that watched my stuff and was like, we could make something out of this, then I might have something here. And I think, ironically, about a couple months after that, I got diagnosed with diabetes, which almost killed me when it happened. Which I didn't realize, you know, diabetes can like come in real quick and almost end you. That's when I had a big realization. Just like, well, you know, I've been doing this for 12 years, and on top of that, like, if I were to do something, it should be now, because who knows? You know, who knows if I'll be dead in another year? Who knows where my health will be? So at least I'll have something to kind of leave. And that's mostly what I came at it is like, I didn't know what I was going to do with it, who I was going to give it to. I just kind of wanted, you know, in a really kind of grim way, just to, you know, leave something, especially with this thing that I was chasing for, you know, the last decade. Kind of leave something to show people that, you know, I was doing something with my stand-up. So I kind of tackled this in the sense of I wanted to leave a lot of the heavier stuff in the second half of my special. In the first half of my special, it was a lot of jokes I've kind of coalesced and gathered through my entire career, but also kind of formatted it to kind of stick to the theme. And I just wanted to make sure that I got people in the first half with things I was comfortable with, knowing that like this will probably hit. And then once I knew that I had them in the first half, then I was just kind of like, well, I got you. If you're still around, then here's the heavy stuff. So that's kind of how I approached all of that.
And it works really well. Like, I think that's one of the things I'm excited for people to explore, you know, once they see it in Austin, is being able to kind of see how you navigate that. Because, you know, I feel like you're not giving yourself enough credit for how well you balance the that joke to get them in with how serious that turn takes, and some of the, you know, very emotionally vulnerable situations that you navigate through in that second half. So it's really awesome. And obviously, as we've kind of talked to, you know, a little bit before, this it just so happens that this feels like a really, you know, kind of similar place that this story was birthed out of, you know, the stand-up special with what Adam was going through and his personal kind of journey. You know, so Adam, for you, you know, navigating through this was like, can you relate to what John was saying? Did you kind of have a similar mentality? You know, was there ever any point, whether in writing or directing, where you kind of found like some obstacles of just like, the the personal journey that you had gone on putting it on screen, that can be challenging.
There's things about the script that there's points that are, it's mostly very comedic and over the top, and it avoids being sentimental, which was kind of the idea, because all those other shows are sentimental. But there are points in it that get a little, tender, and other episodes get a little deeper. But what I found when that would creep up was if I was directing a scene where the emotions are a little more subtle, because then it would bring back things I had been through. Really, it was very bad. It was like I introduced my kids, which I had after, to my doctor, and I said, this guy saved my life once, and he goes once, because it was very severe. And so when I actually started dating my wife during treatment, and then I relapsed, and it was really like kind of hang it up. And so when I returned to the subject matter with the script, and to this, the script mostly, I found I just found myself laughing because I was enjoying writing it. But when it came time to work with the actors, and sometimes those scenes, I'd get a little, like if I had to discuss it, it all came back.
And I think, it is worth mentioning, in a very similar vein to John, the first part of Totally Sick is just, it's so funny. It's so, there is this turn that happens at the end of that first episode, but like, you're kind of going down this completely other journey. I know Phil was kind of talking a little bit about, like this idea of, hey, if we're all lucky enough, we're going to get a little bit older, right? That's the best case scenario. And whether you're married, whether you're single, like, we're all people, we all have needs, and this kind of talks about that in that first part, and it does it in such a funny way that you're not expecting, like right within the first minute or two of it, and it stays there for such a long time, and it does allow for the audience and these two characters to then go on this vulnerable journey right there at the end, which leads into the other episodes that unfortunately we don't feature in this festival, but as mentioned, who knows, maybe future ones. But it's a really good balance. So I did just want to compliment you.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate that. That was the idea. But that's where those feelings come back. When in those scenes, I think all of a sudden it can be hard to talk.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, keeping things going here. So I think kind of similar. I would love to hear from the rest of the team, the filmmakers here, about kind of the challenges that have overcome. Let's throw it back to Taylor. Basil King. Again, you've been working on this for years. You've navigated through a bunch of different scripts. I'm sure you talked a little bit about how so much of this crew was built from other projects that you've worked on in the past, specifically to this project, specifically to the idea of like, we're going to be making a web series, we're going to be going about this. And then in turn, like, this is potentially going to be not only years of our life to get to like these first episodes, but years of our life going into the entire, series. Were there any kind of specific challenges that, y'all navigated through on that?
I mean, I think it really just comes down to trying to stay consistent, trying to stay persistent with it, because, you get stuck on a certain project for too long, there could be the chance of being burnt out, right? And so it's like, what can we do to keep things fresh? What can we do to keep it exciting for everybody, right? And so once we had, it's because a lot of it really consists around me, Ryan Castro, Isaac Segal, our other co-writer, and Shalava, who is our co-producer and assistant director. It's like, what can we do to kind of keep this going? What can we do to broaden our reach? And it's like, a lot of it just comes down to trial and error. I think everything is trial and error, especially when it comes to like social media, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what's going to get more eyes on it, what's not working, how can we switch it up? And it's being willing to adapt to every certain instance that comes along the way. I think that is the big thing, you know, because everyone has their own lives, and it's, you know, this, it gets to, you know, especially since we're doing with Basil King, not only do we have the TV series that we've been writing, which includes the pilot, but we also have our YouTube series, which is these very low to no budget short films that we're doing. And we're in post-production with the third one right now and a few other on the way. So it's simultaneously doing 2 series at once within the same universe. It can be challenging. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of things to plan. And we're trying to be very strategic on how we share things and how we post things. And, you know, a lot of it, like I said, would be to adapt and learn what works, learn what doesn't. And we want to kind of take that head on and push forward with it.
That's really cool. And it makes a lot of sense, you know, kind of like looking to always keep things fresh. Ronald, for you and your crew behind Teagan and his bros, obviously, you know, a little bit of a different situation, kind of like with how short and episodic these were. Were there ever any challenges, you know, kind of in a similar way to what Taylor was mentioning, or what did you guys do to make sure that every episode is both unique but also cohesive?
So challenges wise, I mean, obviously this thing birthed out of another thing not happening. So the funding not happening for that one kind of gave birth to this project. I've done that a couple times where a project that I might have been pushing to get the money for might not have worked out. So I got a little bit of money. Why don't I just adapt to what I have, you know, what budget we were able to raise. So for this project, I basically wrote the episodes knowing what I had, the cat puppet, 2 of my good friends who are funny actors, and, you know, the access to the comedy world here in Austin. So I just kind of wrote these with that in mind. And that's kind of like how I do projects sometimes. If a bigger thing doesn't work out, I just adapt. Filming it wise, challenges. This was like the first thing that I really did as a full puppeteer and director. So that's interesting. Laying on the floor with your hand up a cat's ass, telling people what to do while they're working around you. It doesn't feel real sometimes, giving orders, directions from the ground, but you have to. And it worked out, I think, in the end, trying to figure out like how to put me below a couch or whatever. That's always fun. And then, yeah, we're just kind of like, my idea behind the show is I've been wanting to make something that we could potentially charge a little bit of money for. Like, I want to do like 99 cents an episode to potentially fund more episodes, potentially fund more seasons. So that's kind of like the goal. That's like the insight, the vision. But yeah, that's kind of like, those were the challenges. That's the vision, future vision. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but hopefully.
No, that was great. And I mean, I think that that definitely talks about the challenges in every aspect of it, you know, getting it off the ground, keeping it going for sure. For the writer's room, and Katherine, I'm going to start with you, making sure that y'all kind of kept things going. I think one of the advantages that definitely stands out is that, and it's seen in this first episode, is every sketch is very unique and different, right? Like there's some that happen in a car, some that y'all filmed against a green screen, some that, you know, you filmed right there in person. What was something that y'all were able to overcome? And what was something that y'all kind of like leaned into some of the chaos that film and comedy can be?
Yeah, I mean, we each sort of took on producing our own sketches. So, like Tyler did his, I did mine, Roxy did hers. And Tyler was very dutiful. He got his stuff done super quick. Tyler's really proficient with the green screen stuff. And then Roxy's like our eternal procrastinator. You know, we were down to the wire getting some of her sketches from her. Like we were like, okay, the show has to come out at some point. And then for my stuff, it was interesting. Right as we wrote the show for probably like 3 or 4 months. Then right as we started to really get into production of it, my dad passed away. And then, so like, I was just like kind of out of commission for like a couple months, and then like tried to jump back in, and like there were like a few start stops. So like then like I ended up delaying the project at least 6 months, because just like trying to like get things done, you know. And it's like, but eventually, you know, we did get it done. And I think we learned so much about like how we work, and maybe like 6 episodes might have been too many for the first season. Like we ended up, we made like 120 minutes of content, and we're like, oh, that actually was a big achievement. So yeah, I mean, there were plenty of obstacles we ran into, but yeah, I mean, we made it. So I guess we persevered.
Yeah, definitely. I give Katherine full rights on overcoming the most challenges with this project. She was giving you some of the highlights, but there was a lot of other stuff happening. Yeah, the sheer amount of content we put out, when we were first talking about it at a Starbucks, it was like, yeah, okay, 6 episodes, 4 sketches per episode, wham, bam, boom. And then when we got to the end and I realized this was adding up to about 2 hours worth of content, like we could have made a fucking feature film in the time this took. That kind of hit in a different way. But in terms of leaning into the challenges, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The scene we shot in the car, actually, you were mentioning the car. Yeah, Katherine got the car because she went on, what is it? It's Buy Nothing, right? Facebook Buy Nothing.
The Upper West Side Buy Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, Manhattan, Upper West Side Buy Nothing. It's amazing what you can get for nothing from Upper West Side of Manhattan. Somebody just, who we've never met before, let us use her car for the day. And here we are standing, I don't know, like 83rd Street, holding a fucking green sheet by the window with Roxy in the car and Katherine in shotgun shooting at her. And you have this like, how did we get here moment? Meanwhile, the lady who's donating us the car for the afternoon is like, oh, this is fascinating. What are you guys doing? You know, we go boating in August and we never have anybody to take with us. Do you guys want to hop on our boat? And I mean, that would sound like a great time. We've never met this woman before.
I still haven't been on the boat.
Yeah, we were all very grateful and excited in that moment, but then I don't think anybody followed up after. But yeah, with those challenges, you get moments like that. New Yorkers are notorious for being unfriendly and not having time. But, you know, if you ask, you'd be really surprised how generous and friendly New Yorkers will be when needed.
That's such a cool experience to kind of round things out. Because if I'm remembering correctly, Adam, y'all's story is also a New York story. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I was living on the Upper West Side when I got sick. Yeah.
Great.
Can you relate to that kind of experience that Tyler was talking about?
You know, I find New Yorkers to be really generous, and I mean, the kind of, I think everybody, the rest of the country gets their opinion of us from cop shows, but you know, I've lost my wallet twice in New York City. It's been returned both times. You know, I was shooting, not for this movie, but different movie. We were shooting one scene and we needed an angle on a subway entrance. And it was blocked by a parked car. And this cop goes, oh, you want me to tow it? I'll have it towed. Oh, no, really? I said, I don't know if I will. No, I'll have it towed. A cop. So I think New York is I mean, it's a great place to shoot. I think people are into it. You know, you can get street shots with people walking by because everybody's too cool to look at the camera. So it's just like they're extras being told not to look at the camera. Yeah, and there's also just, it's got its own rhythm and look, and you know, it's so yeah. I mean, I love shooting in New York. It's fun.
Well, I want to thank everybody here, Taylor, Katherine, Ronald, Adam, Phil, John, Tyler. Thank you all. And again, all of these films are a part of one of our 2 blocks of pilots, episodic, web series, and stand-up comedy that is happening at the Comedy Film Festival. Both blocks are happening on Saturday, April 26th at Galaxy Highland. First block is at 1 p.m. The second block is 3:15 p.m. Thank you all for taking the time. Thank you for your wonderful films and for letting us showcase them in Austin, Texas.